I worked in Y12 for Tennessee Eastman. I came first, about the 1st of April, well, I think exactly the 1st of April, 1944. And the first thing I noticed on my trip from Knoxville to Oak Ridge, which was a 40-mile jaunt, that the people around me were making 3 syllables out of 2-syllable words, or even 1-syllable words. And the Southern accent was new to me. At the end of the war, when the radio was blaring out that the war was ended and, oh no, that the bomb had been dropped, then we all felt, oh, why don't they turn off that radio? You know, this is going to, you know, this was all wrong. So I think it was amazing that in about a week at the beginning of our time there, the secrecy was so well ingrained. Life in Oak Ridge was very casual. I remember being dressed up for work, but after work we were wearing blue jeans all the time. And we lived in a house for 6 girls. The government, the Army, decided later that they could put 12 girls in the house. And so they decided that they would put double-decker beds in every one of the 3 bedrooms. I had one roommate to start out with. Later, if it had been fair, I should have had 3 roommates, and a total of 4 in the room. I think the house had 1 bathroom. I certainly know they wouldn't have had 2. I remember where the 1 was. It was a time when there was rationing of meat and sugar, and when someone came to dinner, he really. If it were a big feast or something, he surrendered a few ration stamps to allow to compensate for what he was using up. Now, there weren't any other girls in physics at the time I was taking that in Cornell. There were 2 other math majors at McMaster, but no other girls in physics. So when I got to Oak Ridge, it was perhaps not surprising that there were no girls who were physicists. And I remember somebody saying to me once, do you consider that you're a girl who happens to be a physicist or a physicist who happens to be a girl? So anyway, the only other woman who'd studied physics at the time I was there, which was April 1st, 1944 to late in December of 1945. It was just that women weren't thought to be capable of learning the subject, or thought that it was strictly a man's field. By the time I got to Berkeley, there was a woman physicist who was very surprised that I was considering leaving the field. And she said, you know, you're needed as a role model. You can't be dropping this now. But I felt that in high school, they had said, they had decided that you weren't necessarily going to have ideas that were setting the world on fire, but there'd be something you could do It was absolutely unforgettable. We said at the time, this is something we'll tell our grandchildren about. And we knew that it was tremendously exceptional, what we were working on, that it hadn't been done before. And I think it was such an exciting time of life. For young people, a most wonderful experience. We weren't seeing it from the same point of view as the housewives who were trying to cope with the mud getting into their houses and were very concerned about that. One of them told me that when some help would arrive at her house, and this was Marcia Neely, whose husband was a lawyer in Oak Ridge, the maid would pour a gallon of water in the front door and then proceed to sweep it out. And this was to cope with the mud. And sometimes you'd lose a shoe in the mud. The shoe would simply stick, and you'd be trying to get it out again. And there were times when they were always making cartoons about the absurd, and one of them was a picture of an arm sticking out of the mud, holding a badge for the man at the gate of Y12, and it was just something so full of surprises. But to the young people, this was excitement, and this was something quite wonderful.